Hey everyone, Dr. Ben here with the Functional Medicine Centers. Welcome. I am the founder and CEO of the Functional Medicine Centers. I run the Fort Collins location, and we also have an office in Phoenix, Arizona. We work with patients all over the country, all over the world, and we love having you on board here. Going to go over some really interesting information today, going over vitamin D, going over what the government is telling us to do, and what we really could be doing instead of just masking, social distancing, all the things that they are saying. So great to have everybody on board. Go ahead and put down below where you're watching in from. We love to see people all over the United States, all over the world. Lots of information to get through. If you have not already, follow or like our page. Most importantly, share this information. The more we share this, the more this powerful ball just starts rolling down that hill, and more people get this information, more people get empowered, and the more we can be empowered, the healthier we're going to be as a society, and we're going to beat COVID that much faster, and we're going to beat any other virus or bacteria coming our way. So welcome everybody. Really interesting. I was watching a video this weekend. A doctor in Minnesota was talking, and he's actually a legislator as well up there. He was talking about Minnesota is spending $9 million on TV ads, radio ads, billboards, all these different things to promote being safe, to promote social distancing, wearing your mask, not going out if you're sick, covering all these different things, which is fine. And obviously, if you are sick, if you have a fever, if you've got any of these issues, sure, you don't want to go around other people, all of that. But they're spending $9 million to tell people to be safe. But what we really need to be spending money on, when you look at the statistics that I'm going to go over today, and what we see especially with vitamin D, they need to be having a vitamin D campaign and telling people, take your vitamin D, let's get everybody tested, and then we'll give you free vitamin D. They could give everybody in the entire state of Minnesota vitamin D to get their levels up into the 50 and 60 range and cut their infection rates in half. This is what the research is showing. There was a study done in the United States of over 191,000 American patients, and they found that people that had greater than 55 on their vitamin D level had 47% less infection rate than people that had less than 20. So right here, we know with 191,000 people in the United States, that if your vitamin D is greater than 55, that you're going to have half that infection rate that someone else is. And I guarantee you, there's no study that's going to tell you if you wear a mask, if you stay 6 feet away, if you don't touch people, don't touch things, whatever, that it's going to cut your infection rate in half. There's no study that's going to tell you that. And yet, we're not being driven down this path. We're not being given vitamin D and testing and all these things that we know could cut it in half. What if we cut our infection rate in half? I mean, that would be dramatic, and it wouldn't just be about COVID, it would be about the flu, it would be about bacterial infections, all types of different things. This is what we give patients every single year, not just COVID years, but if somebody's coming down with a cold, a flu, anything like that, we get them vitamin D ASAP. All right, everybody, I know some new people have jumped on. Go ahead and tell me where you're watching in from. Love to see where you guys are at as well. So again, Minnesota is spending $9 million over the next month or so on all of this marketing, all of this advertising, all of this TV, radio, all these different things to tell people to mask up, to social distance, to do all that, which is fine. And yet we're not spending any money at that level on getting people to get healthy or to actually do things to prevent it. Again, that study with 191,000 plus Americans, people that had greater than 55 on their vitamin D, had a 47% less risk of getting COVID. There was a study done in Israel with 7,807 people, and they found that people that had vitamin D over 30 had a 58% less risk of getting COVID than people under 30. So how important is it to be at least 30 and above? Absolutely. We've got to be able to know people's vitamin D levels, get that vitamin D up to where it needs to be, and then move on from there. In Israel, that study also showed that they had a 2 times greater hospital risk of going to the hospital with COVID if they were less than 30 on their vitamin D. Give me a thumbs up out there if you guys are greater than 30 on your vitamin D. If you don't know it, give me a thumbs down, because odds are you're not. Almost every single patient that we test, if they're not taking vitamin D, if they don't know what their vitamin D is, they are going to be low. So give me a thumbs up if you know that your vitamin D, we're seeing some there. Give me a thumbs down though if you don't know what yours is, because if you don't know it, 99% of the time you are going to be low on that vitamin D. There was a Spanish study where they gave vitamin D and the ICU, for going to the intensive care unit, they took it from 50% of the people that went to the hospital down to 2% of the people, and went all the way down to 0 death when they gave patients vitamin D as soon as they came into the hospital. So if somebody came in with COVID, gave them vitamin D, it took their ICU, intensive care unit, down from where it was 50% of the people that went into the hospital ended up going into the ICU, down to only 2%. Amazing. And that was in a Spanish study. Another study in August of 2020 showed that vitamin D of less than 12, which is pretty darn low, but guess what? We do see it that low. Less than 12 had a 6.12 times risk of having severe infection and 14.7 times greater risk of death. So vitamin D of less than 12, basically, if somebody gets sick and their vitamin D is that low, they're going to have a very hard time fighting this off. So again, Minnesota, many other states have done this, but I was just looking at Minnesota. Minnesota, $9 million marketing for masking, social distancing, all these things to stay safe. We always say it's much better to be strong than it is safe. There's no study that is going to show you if you social distance, you're going to cut your infection rate for COVID in half. None at all. There's no study that's ever been done on that. There's no study even on masking, that wearing a mask of any type is going to cut your COVID risk in half. But we know with vitamin D, if you get your vitamin D up to where it needs to be, you are going to cut your risk in half. Some studies say 58%. It's going to cut your hospitalization risk in half. If it's really low, it's going to increase your severe reaction, your severe infection 6.12 times, and it's going to increase your risk of death over 14 times if your vitamin D is severely low at 12 and below there. So you've got to be able to get that vitamin D up. Yes, Gilda, we got yours up high there, didn't we? So you've got to have that vitamin D at that optimal level. But this is the moral of the story. Instead of trying to be safe, which is fine, you can go ahead and do that, we need to be promoting this information out to the masses. Vitamin D, incredibly cheap, especially if the government was going to buy it in bulk and give everybody vitamin D and say, take this every day and we'll retest you again in 30 days. I mean, you could cut the risk of COVID in half. What would that do? That would cut in half, because really we know that if people are not getting the infection, they're not going to be having severe reactions. It's going to save money. It's going to save deaths. All these different things. So instead of being safe, we need to be talking about being strong. We need to be talking about getting our vitamin D optimized, taking your vitamin C, taking your zinc, all these things. Even Dr. Fauci has talked about C and D, but it didn't get any playtime. It didn't get any press on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or any of these. They did not say, hey, get your vitamin D up to X amount. For us, 60 to 80 is where you should be, that optimal range of vitamin D. You can go up to 100, 105, 110 and still be fine, but 60 to 80 is that sweet spot. So we're able to get people up. If you have not tested your vitamin D lately, get it tested, get that vitamin D up, and get your body as strong as possible, and do what has been studied and what we know works for the immune system, and will keep it as strong as possible, as opposed to just relying on masks and social distancing and all those things. You need to get your body as strong as possible. So guys, take care. If you've got any questions on what your levels should be or where you're at, go ahead and put that down below. Otherwise, share this page, share this information with as many people as you possibly can. We need to get this information out there. We need to get people as healthy as possible, as strong as possible, to fight this off, to fight the flu off, to fight the next infection that's coming around, because your body, your terrain is way better and way stronger than any bug out there. So, all right, guys, make it a great day. Take care.